guys, happy live, happy Wednesday. Sorry I missed a couple of weeks. I was in Bermuda. I apologize. Hopefully you guys are all healthy and happy and well. I will do my normal today, which is go over your guys' questions and answers that have come in throughout the week. If you have any, feel free to write them in the chat, or I will just answer some of the ones that have come in. I will do some happy news as well as some real estate updates. Again, hopefully you guys are all well, and I'm going to dive right into it with the first question. Okay. So the first question is from Jackie in Ramera. So Jackie in Ramera asks, what are your opinions and thoughts re buying a home on leased land? Thank you, Jackie, for asking. To be honest, my actual dad and stepmom live on leased land. So something that I would, just check is what the lease is. Is it for 15 years? Is it for 10 years? Is it for 50? Is it for 100? Is it a 100-year lease and you are 92 into it? And, in 8 years you have to, pick up your house kind of thing, have it moved, which obviously is usually too costly. Or is it 5 years into a 100-year lease, etc.? It's just handy, to be honest, with your lease land, because then it's kind of like a condo fee. So you pay a fee and they cut your grass, they do your snow, etc. So I'm not against lease land, but that is basically what I'd say is check how far into it you are, as well as if there's any common elements like a condo, and just see if there's any like lawsuits against it, etc., which your lawyer can check, okay? But thank you, Jackie, for asking. So again, just some happy news before we get to the real estate, okay? So not everybody is bullies in middle school. I think of middle school as grade 6, 7, and 8. So there was a little boy in Utah, and he was in grade 6, and he had a yearbook, and he had it signed by 2 people, and they were both teachers. And he wrote in his own yearbook, and he said, hope I make more friends. And his mom saw it and was obviously kind of heartbroken, and she put it on a Facebook group chat. And basically somebody showed it to one of their kids who was at a high school close by. And basically fast forward, 100 high schoolers ended up coming to this little boy's school and asking for Brody. And then they all signed his yearbook. And then when the other kids in his class saw all these people wanting to sign his yearbook, they wanted to sign his yearbook. So a lot of the teenagers and people in high school, they wrote like words of encouragement, and they wrote their phone numbers and a lot of motivational things and so forth. So it was just really cute because obviously it can be a tough go in school. So for them to show that support and put their phone numbers and say, we're here anytime you guys need us, or anytime you need us, or anytime you're having a rough day, or if you have any questions about life or anything going on or what have you, I just thought it was cute. So next question comes from Dave in Stainer. So Dave in Stainer said, I know the market is a bit flooded right now. Do you think we should wait till the fall to list? Thank you, Dave, for asking. So obviously there will be less listings in the fall because not as many people want to move. So let's just say you list in the middle of September. The average closing is 60 to 90 days. So if you're in the middle of September, October, November, December, not a lot of people want to move in the middle of December or even the middle of November, just because possible snow or not being settled before Christmas, etc. So it's not as common of a time to move. Plus a lot of people like to move in the summer because they like to get their kids situated before school starts. So there's not going to be as many people listing at that time. So yes, there'll be less competition in the seller's world. However, there won't be as many people buying either. And also the interest rates are going up, which I will tell you guys about and talk about later. So depending on how much the interest rates go up, you might be, against less competition, but less people might be able to afford your home. Okay, so it's a bit of a catch-22, but thank you for asking. So the next happy news before we get to real estate is, or some people might think of it as happy news. So there is a new animal in the search and rescue world, and it is not a dog like a lot of people would think. It is actually a rat. So there is a lady out of Scotland. She is a 33-year-old scientist, and I forget what it was called. She has been training these 77 rats, and basically they're trained to go into areas that were bomb zones or earthquakes, etc. And they have these little backpacks on, and they have little microphones so they can talk to the people as the rats go up to them. And also they have trackers on them and so forth. So in areas that are too dangerous for the people to get, they can say like, help is on its way, it'll be there in 2 days, you're going to be okay, or blah, blah, blah. So they just found that they were more movable than dogs, like to get into smaller areas, maybe where rubble and something has collapsed, and for them to go underneath. And supposedly it only takes 2 weeks to train the rats. So don't ask me, but that's what they said. I'm sure some people will be happy, to hear a microphone, and other people might scream by seeing a rat. Hi, Eric, how are you? I bet you didn't think I'd be talking about rats today, Eric, but I am. Next question comes from, here's the next question. Mark from Collingwood. So Mark from Collingwood said, I know you have a lot of short-term rentals. What is the number one issue you have with them? Thank you, Mark, for asking. So to be honest, I'd probably say there's a couple of things. So finding a cleaner, because obviously getting a cleaner is a bit of a pain because sometimes people check out on a Monday, sometimes they check out on a Sunday, a Friday, a Thursday, so it's really hard for a cleaner. So say you have a set cleaner at your home and they come every other Thursday or what have you, but with an Airbnb or Verbo or however you say that word, VRVO, what I don't know how you say it. They're coming different days, so it's hard for cleaners. So I would say that is hard to find, as well as neighbors. So neighbors might be against you having a short-term rental, or they might have a short-term rental and you're their competition, etc. I would say those are the main issues. I don't really find anything else to be an issue, to be honest. Those would be the main ones. Finding a cleaner, and then maybe your neighbors not liking it. Okay, so one more thing before we do real estate. So there was a lady, and she, 19 years ago, moved into a property. She was at the time 51, so she's obviously now 70. And she moved into this home, and in January, her landlord told her that she was going to be evicted because they had to sell, which in Canada, by the way, they can't do. They have to say, like, we're moving into the property or whatever. It's not just because they're selling. They have to officially be moving into the property. The new buyer has to be moving into the property. And basically, she told one of her neighbors, who told another neighbor, and they eventually rallied for her to get her to stay, basically. So they went to the landlord and they said, hey, instead of her, being out, can we wait till the end of June, and we're going to try and fundraise and get her enough money for her to stay, and not even just stay and pay her rent, but stay, and they were going to buy the house for her. So fast forward, it's not the end of June yet, but they just got enough money last week. So they did like bake sales, they did yard sales, they did donations, they had a lot of pro bono work, etc. She's known in the area for helping a lot of homeless and so forth. She volunteers a lot, and her green thumb. So it was cute that they all bought her home for her, and now she doesn't have to pay rent ever, and she has her own home. So I thought that was super cute for this lady. They know her or call her, referred to as Miss Linda. So that was cute. So now we're going to jump into real estate. Hi, Rob. How are you? Hi, Mandy. Hi, Scotty. I can't see. Hi, Jackie. Can't see everybody. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. Otherwise, I'm just going to ramble on. Hopefully, you guys are all having a good day so far. Sun finally came out. So what has basically been going on in the world of real estate? Again, I apologize. I said I was away a couple weeks. So Simcoe County is up 12.5%. So some people might have heard that it was down 36.2%. And what that was is 36.2% less homes sold in May 2022 than May of 2021. Okay, so over 36% less homes sold, but the average sales price was up over 12%. And then they also divided into detached homes versus semi-detached, townhomes, etc. And some of them were up over 20%, 23%, etc., just depending on which one it was. So 445 homes sold, which again was over 36% less, but the average sales price was over 12% higher than May of last year. Okay, so the average sales price in Barrie was $931,795 to be exact. Let's just say $931 to be even. Again, 12.5% higher. So I said Barrie, that was actually Simcoe. That was all of Simcoe. So Barrie was actually up higher. It was up 13.1% from May of last year. And the average sales price now is over $841,000. And condos are up as well, and they're up over 16.8%. And their average sales price now is over $588,000. So when you hear about things being down, it is usually, like, I can obviously answer if there's something else, but I tell you guys all the stats and stuff. It's the number of homes sold or the number of condos sold, etc., not the sales price. So it's not the sales price is down, 36% or whatever. It's the number of homes sold, say from May this year to May of last year, whatever month we happen to be in, okay? So that was what was down. The over 36% was the number of homes sold in Simcoe County, not the average sales price. So year to date, so that means from January 1st till today, there were 3,327 homes that have been sold in Simcoe County so far, and that is down. So that's 33.6% less than last year at the same time. However, the average home price is up over 24% now to $954,133 to be exact, but let's just say $954, okay? So yes, 33.6% less homes sold, but they're up over 24% in Simcoe County, okay? Again, that's how many homes have been sold year to date. Let's see. So they also, like I said, May just happened. They do lots of things per month. So May was down 8.5% over the 5-year average as well for the number of homes sold. But it is still selling higher, obviously, than last year. Okay. And again, I will do like super local to us, and then I'll do like BC, etc. So I'm not going to do just Barrie, etc. I'm going to do Barrie, surrounding Toronto, PEI, Toronto, Vancouver, and so forth. But again, any questions, feel free. Otherwise, I will ramble. So yes, it is up, like I was saying, 24.4%. It is not up 24.4% since January, February, March of this year, for example, because that was when there was no inventory. Okay. So what else was I going to say? There were 1,122 new listings in May, and that was up over 200 from last year, because last year there was only 892. So there were way more listings this year in May. A lot of people are like, hey, I want to leave the province. The cost of living here is too much, etc. Or some people have thought, hey, the market's going to crash, so I want to list my house. So again, there was over 200 extra listings in May than last year. But again, the average sales price was up over 24% over last year, okay? What else? So yeah, that was 25.8% more listings. But again, the homes sold for more than 24% more than last year. So that was still good. What else? So there are 4 more times this year that the Bank of Canada can raise the interest rate. So the next date is July 13th, and then it is September 7th, and then it jumps to October 26th. Just looking at my dog. And then it goes to December 7th, okay? So those are the 4 times that Bank of Canada can raise their rates next. And there are some economists that are saying, hey, there's going to be a little blip in the market and it's going to be short. Others have said it'll be longer. Some have said it'll be short like 2017's blip, and others have said it'll be long like the early 90s blip. So again, just depends which economist you listen to. So there was a recent one from Desjardins, however you say that word, that they think that it's going to go down 15%. However, even if it goes 15% down, it's still over 30% higher than it was December 2019. So obviously that was before the pandemic. So even if it does go down 15%, that not every economist is saying it will, but if it does, it's still more than 30% higher than it was December 2019 before the pandemic, okay? So that is that. So yeah, a lot are saying it'll cool but not collapse. So that's majority of economists are saying. And so July 13th, when is the next time that the Bank of Canada is supposed to raise its rates? It's going to go up 50 basis points, supposedly, which is basically 0.5%. So June 1st, it went from 1 to 1.5. So if it goes up another 0.5, it'll be at 2%. And a lot of people, you know how like the economists, some are saying like the 90s, but in the 90s, the interest rate was over 10%, like double digits, etc. So that's why a lot of economists are saying, no, it's just gonna be a slight blip because it's not that crazy interest rate like that. Yes, it's going up, quite a bit and pretty quickly, but it's not going to 10%, 14%, 18%, etc. And so if this correction, some people call it a correction, happen, the main place that they say they're going to feel it is in the Maritimes, so out east. And the reason that is because a lot of people from Ontario moved out there. They thought, it's cheaper to live out there. Maybe they're working from home, maybe they're retiring, etc. So they're supposed to feel it the most, and they are supposed to have a correction of approximately 18 to 20%. Again, this is just from different economists, but I'm just relaying information to you guys. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to ask in the chat. Otherwise, I will blab away. So on average, homes out east in the Maritimes went up 62 to 70% since the beginning of COVID. So again, other economists are saying even if it goes down that 18 to 20, it's still, inflated tons since the beginning of the pandemic. And even with the adjustment, it's still high. So as long as you didn't buy January, February, March this year and then have to sell, fall this year, you're fine. If you bought before, you're fine. And obviously people that even did buy January, February, March, I don't expect them to be selling right away. Okay. I don't know. My dog always likes to find things that are noisy to chew while I do this, but I will just let him be. So what else was I going to say? The Barrie Real Estate Board said that June so far is the highest number of listings we have ever had to date at one time, which is crazy. Again, a lot of people are hearing things like, hey, the market's going to crash, or hey, it's too much to live here, or blah, blah. So people are listing, but it is the highest number of listings that we have ever had. A single family home averaged just over $1 million. So $1 million $3,100 to be exact. So that is how much it's going to cost you if you want to get into a home right now. In Simcoe County, townhomes are $680,000, and that was up 25.8%. If you're looking to get into a condo, you can get a bit cheaper at $619,000, but that was up 22.4% as well. The average price of a home sold in Barrie was $915,000, and that was up 27.2% over last year. So again, yes, less homes are selling and what have you, but the average sales price is still up over last year. Okay. So year to date, so again, from January 1st until now, in Simcoe County, the average sales price is over $1 million, $1.1 million to be exact. It's 1.134002, just crazy, which is up 28.4%. Okay. And that's the average year to date price in Simcoe County, which is crazy to be over 1.1. When I remember when I moved to Barrie, and you could, buy in Toronto, and that was the only place basically you thought of $1 million properties, and you could buy in Barrie for like 80 or 120 or what have you. And now it's 1.1 more than that average sales price in Simcoe County. Okay, so crazy. The biggest declines in Ontario. So remember I mentioned in the Maritimes, they're supposed to have big declines out east. The biggest declines in Ontario are supposed to happen in Bancroft and Chatham. Chatham, I remember as a kid as Wheels Inn. I don't know what's there now. And Bancroft, I know, is by Algonquin Park. I used to go there as a kid as well to a cottage. But they are supposed to feel the biggest heat just because a lot of people working from home, etc., either went to places they could buy homes for cheaper, or they could buy waterfront property and work from home and kind of not have a cottage and a house and just have one. So they're expecting that they can't basically keep up with everything that happened during the pandemic, as most people from Toronto and GTA, etc., moved to the outskirts. So a recent study said the two hottest cities to buy in, but the worst when they, what did they look at? They looked at average home prices, growth, neighborhood, safety, and economy. The two best, not best, most popular, but worst to buy in were Vancouver and Toronto. So Vancouver, they gave 0 stars, and Toronto, they gave 0.7, which is crazy. And they did look at 45 cities, okay? And that's what they gave. And then the number one place that they ranked out of the 45 cities was Moncton, New Brunswick. So they gave them the top rating. And then again, I'm just telling you a whole bunch of stuff. So there were some surveys done through the Bank of Montreal, and they released some statements, and they think that Ontario is the most overvalued province or territory in Canada. And they think it's over 50% overvalued. They think BC is 21.4% overvalued. And they think the best valued places are Alberta and Saskatchewan. So that was from the Bank of Montreal. They just released that. So last year in Simcoe County, homes averaged over 107%, 107.2 to be exact. So let's just say it listed for 500,000. It was selling for 107% of that. So basically 500 in your calculator times 1.07 or 1.072 to be exact. So that was what was happening last year. And this year, the average is 101.4. So it's not going as much over asking. So people will think, oh, it's not as hot of a market as last year and blah, blah, it's crashed. But the average price last year was $799 and change. And the average price this year is $903. So yes, it's not as high over, but people are just getting closer to asking. So again, maybe back then people were listing $550 and getting $799, and now they're listing, $875 and getting $905 or what have you. Okay, so that's basically what's happening there. The average days on market last year was 11, and the average days on market this year is 14, i.e. 2 weeks. So it's not something that's moving right in one weekend like before. It is on average taking 2 weeks. However, there are still bidding wars. So last year, the year to date for a detached home was 12.8% less than it is this year. So now in Barrie, it'll cost you just around $930 to get a detached home. If you want to get a semi-detached home, they're up 9.8% to just over $688,000. If you want to get into a townhome, they are up 15% over last year, and they're going to average you more than a semi-detached, around $713,000. Collingwood wasn't up as much. They were up 4.3%, and ESSA was up quite a lot more than that, 19.8%. And Innisfil was up crazy for their detached, 41.4%. and it's almost $2 million average for a detached home in Innisfil in May of 2022. So it was $1,194,164 to be exact, but $1,194,000. That's crazy. Almost $1.2 million to buy a detached home in Innisfil. To get a townhome there will cost you about $757,000. Midlands prices didn't go up as much. They went up 3.2%. Townhomes there are not much cheaper than detached. So a detached is going to cost you about $675 in Midland, and a townhome about $612. In Aurelia, they were up 6.8% over last year. So again, I'm saying May 2022 versus May 2021. And in Wasaga, they're going to cost you $836 now for a detached, $587 for a townhome, and $600 for a semi-detached. Okay. What else was I going to say? So oftentimes I talk about like 2022 versus 2021, but just as an FYI, the 2 years before the pandemic, well, actually they did it to 2.5. For some reason, they did it to December of 2019. And then 2.5 years before that, the average home in Ontario, okay, all of Ontario, not just Simcoe County, went up 13%. Not 13% each year and 26% total, 13% in total, which was common. I remember when I first got in the business, sometimes things would go up 5%, sometimes 8%, but it seemed to teeter around that, point. Usually condos, to be honest, were like 3 to 5, and homes, freehold, were like 5 to 8. So, it's 13 for the 2 years. So now, we're hearing crazy numbers, 30, 40, 55, 62, 70, and obviously it's insanity and it can't keep up at that. So when they said that the highest place in Ontario to drop was Bancroft, they have gone up 185% since the pandemic, which is insane. Since I said the 2.5 years prior to the pandemic, the average went up 13% in total for 2.5 years, and they've gone up 185%. So it makes sense that they don't think it can hold, on to that as people move back to the city, etc. They're basically saying it's impossible to hold on to that. Okay, so during that time that Bancroft had those crazy jumps, Toronto went up just over 50%, and 70%, more, just a little over 70%, 70.8% was in GTA and surrounding areas. So some were like 68, some were 74, whatever, but on average, when they went basically 1 hour around Toronto, it was just over 70%, okay? Again, 50 in Toronto, and then up in Bancroft, over 180%, which is crazy. So the smallest decline in basically, if we have an adjustment this year, is thought to be in Thunder Bay, number 1, and Timmins, number 2. So those are supposed to be the safest spots right now. And although, you've probably read like doom and gloom and so forth, they're saying nowhere is saying that the prices are going to go to pre-pandemic or below. They're saying, yes, they'll just a little bit. However, did that in 2017 as well. Not one economist is saying it's going to go to the level before, pre-pandemic, so December 2019, etc., or below. They're all saying, yes, it'll come down a bit, but not anything to pre-pandemic or below. Again, I know I said that 3 times, but I'm just reiterating because it seems to be a really common question that we get. Another thing is recreational properties. So what that means is basically like waterfront properties or close to waterfront, like walk to beaches, etc. And because so many people scooped up waterfront properties during the pandemic, because they're like, hey, we can work from home, let's move up to the cottage, or let's combine our homes and so forth, they are thinking that recreational properties will still average another 20% this year. So we're already in June, halfway through June, they still think there's going to be about another 20% by the end of the year that recreational properties are going to get. For example, there's a place in BC and it's called Tofino. I do not know where that is. But last year at the beginning of the year, they averaged 1.14. The beginning of this year, they averaged 1.72, and it's expected to still go up over 1.8 and teeter towards 1.9 by the end of this year. They thought we're going to have similar gains in Canmore as well as the Muskokas. And if you're looking for less of a jump and you want to possibly buy somewhere, St. John's, Newfoundland currently averages 273, and they're supposed to go up to around 300,000. So if you want to not spend as much, you can go to St. John's, Newfoundland. Alrighty, so next question comes from Richard and Trish from Barrie. So Richard and Trish say, I know people are putting conditions down again. Do you think they would take conditional on our home selling? Thank you, Richard and Trish, for asking. So to be honest, I haven't seen anybody accept that. I have heard of somebody accepting it, but we haven't seen it. We have definitely seen people taking 5 days financing inspection, 3 days financing inspection. We had one do 7 days financing and 2 days inspection. So that has definitely changed. Back in the day, you would have, I say back in the day, January, February, March, you would have had, say 15 offers and 14 would have been firm. Now you have 15 offers and 4 are firm and 11 are conditional. Okay. So it's just different in that sense, and they don't go as crazy over anymore like they were before. But again, people are just listing closer to their asking price that they want. Okay. But thank you for asking. Next thing, again, I'm back to happy news. So there is an 11-year-old boy that is safe. And why I say that is, so he was out for breakfast with his mom and his stepdad, and there was a waitress, and they noticed that he had lots of scratches and bruises on him and so forth. And basically the waitress made a sign and she posted it behind the parents, like as she was walking by, that asked if you were okay. And he said he wasn't. And basically she called the police, and himself and his 4-year-old sister were taken in. And both of them, the mother and the stepfather, have been charged. I know that sounds sad they're charged, but it also is good because now he's safe, because the police said that he wouldn't have been around much longer if the waitress hadn't done that. So I obviously like that. The next question comes from Becky and Ian in Oro. So Becky and Ian in Oro said, when people say they are holding offers, are we allowed to offer ahead of time and say we don't want to wait till offer presentation date? Thank you, Becky and Ian, for asking. So yes, you can. So what that's called is a bully offer or a preemptive offer. So you can do that. It doesn't mean the seller has to take it. The seller could say, do you know what? Like, cleaning my house every day and doing all these showings is a pain in the butt, and I will take your preemptive. Or they could say, hey, I like this. Maybe let's address this. Let's reach out to all of the agents and tell them, hey, we're going to look at this offer tonight, etc. But they don't have to. They could say, I know that you want to give us this crazy amount or whatever, but we're still going to wait till Tuesday, or we're still going to wait till Thursday. They don't have to take it. Some people think they have to just because you're going over asking, or they have to just because you're going in firm, or they have to because you're a cash offer, or you're 500,000 down or whatever, but they don't have to take it. They still could wait if they want. You might offer them $1 million. Let's just say it's $799 listed. You offer them $1 million, and on offer day they might only get $850, right? It might happen, but they might get $1.05 million. It's really unknown. It's kind of like going to the casino. You don't really know what's going to happen. So you can offer ahead of time. Again, that's called a preemptive or a bully offer, but they do not have to take it. Okay. Thank you for asking. Hopefully that answered your question. The next thing I thought was cute was basically this lady was reunited with her son after 20 years. She gave him up for adoption as a teenager in Utah, and the people that had adopted him kind of always stayed open with her and would update her on things, but she kind of stayed from afar. And then as he got older and so forth, when he turned 20, she decided to text him on his birthday, and he was super ecstatic and reached out to her, and they met and so forth. And turns out where he was volunteering was actually where she worked, which I thought was really cute. So they had like passed each other in halls and so forth, which is crazy. But I always like that kind of thing. So the next question comes from Cassandra in Phelpston. So Cassandra in Phelpston said, I read an article that 1 in 4 people won't be able to afford their mortgages with all of those rate hikes. What do you think will happen to the market? Thank you, Cassandra, for asking. I did read that same article as well. So to be honest, there's lots of things. So there's reports that say over 1/3 of Canadians don't even have a mortgage. So obviously over 0.33 don't have a mortgage. That one's saying 0.25 won't be able to afford their mortgage. But majority of people that have gotten their mortgage in the last 2 years, they were approved with that new stress test, which is 2% higher. So even if the rate was 1.8, they were approved at 3.8, right? So even if the rates go up, they were approved at that higher rate. So unless something's happened since then, like they've lost their job or they've gone out and bought new cars or something like that, they've been approved at that higher rate. So they shouldn't, lose their home or have to put it up for sale, etc., because they've been approved at that 2% higher. And even if things like that had happened, but there's obviously a lack of inventory of properties available just because they're not building things as fast as, the baby boomers' kids are wanting to buy or immigrants coming in, etc. So it depends who you ask, but majority, like I said, the economists are just saying there'll be a slight blip just like happened in 2017, where people that bought January, February, March, etc., if they sold kind of in the summer and into the beginning of fall, they would lose money. But anybody else that had bought prior, it was so much lower when they had bought it, so they were still selling for higher. And then eventually it came back up it was like into that Christmas and into the next fall anyway. So thank you for asking. But yeah, over a third of Canadians don't even have a mortgage anyway. And a lot of them were approved at that higher 2% rate. And then the other people that didn't buy in the last 2 years are already locked in at a higher rate. So sometimes they'll get out of their locked in. Let's just say they're locked in at 4.2 and now suddenly they're paying 3.2. So it's still better for them anyways. Okay, so it's just a lot of doom and gloom that they like to say and get people scared, but not necessarily the case. What else? So there was a new world record, which I thought was cute, from a man. He sailed from California to Japan, and he's 83 years old. So he was the oldest, or is the oldest man to do so by himself nonstop. And it took him more than 2 months, which was cute, but he actually did it when he was 23 as well. So 60 years ago he did it. He was the first to do it by himself as well. And he did it again, and he just wanted to show peace between countries. And he said something. Let me read what he said because I thought it was cute. He said, "Don't let your dreams just stay as dreams. Have a goal and work towards achieving this, and a beautiful life awaits you." So I like that from the 83-year-old man that sailed from California to Japan by himself, and all he had was rice and cans of food. So I like that. Anyways, have a spectacular evening. And that is it from me. Stay kind, be true to yourself and all those around you. Smile and have a super evening.